Morning, everybody. A very warm welcome. I would like to say a warm welcome. It's actually, we're starting to feel winter creep in this morning, but warmer inside. So please do take seats, make yourselves comfortable. Okay, this morning, as advertised, the auction starts at 12 o'clock. But as has been our practice for the last 2 years, we have the privilege of a guest speaker to open our event. One of our fundamental pillars of our business is being able to share contemporary thinking and analysis of contemporary trends in the marketplace. And we certainly welcome thought leadership on the floor. And we always look forward to inviting guest speakers that can share and provide valuable insights to us all in our business and in our real estate endeavor and investment endeavor. So today we have the privilege of welcoming Neale Peterson, founder and content-in-chief for Real Estate Investor Magazine and its digital platform, rei.co.za, who for almost 2 decades now has been a leading and independent source for real estate news, education, and investment insight. Neale himself is a journalist of stature, a mentor, investor, and an event facilitator. I've had the privilege of working with Neale on more than one webinar. He hosts seminars and live events. He's got a very established background in media, having worked with Naspers, and has a proven track record of property investment. He's a guest speaker in numerous events, and he's certainly respected and has a reputation as a thought leader. So today we welcome Neale to talk about success strategies for business owners, business investors, and real estate investors. I anticipate that Neale's presentation will last about 20 minutes, and if there is appetite from the floor, we'll open up to some Q&A. But a very, very warm welcome to you, Neale. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It's wonderful actually being here. I actually feel quite uncomfortable standing in front of a podium because I like to move around. But wonderful having you. We got a wonderful build-up to an auction after my discussion, and I'm really excited because I'm really passionate about real estate. That's why I started the magazine more than 18 years ago, and I've been very privileged to meet all the people in the industry. I know a lot of people in the industry. I've met lots of celebrities, and believe it or not, yes, one of them was Donald Trump in 2011 in Sydney, Australia. I met him, and you know, he's obviously in the news today. He's all over the show. I've met the Kiyosakis, which I've interviewed probably 4, 5, 6 times, and you know, the likes of Christo Wiese, Yanni Mouton, big businessmen, even Johan Rupert, and a number of those people. So, and I get inspired by what these people do and try to share that knowledge and pass that on to you as investors. Well, certainly you're going to be bidders today. So I'm really excited that I'm the initial speaker just before the auction. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk a bit about success strategies for business owners and investors. And so if I tell you a little bit of, as I said, my story, I don't have to tell you too much because I think Greg already sort of did all those introductions. My background is in media. Became a private investor. I launched Remax into South Africa in property. And I launched the magazine in 2007 after I met Dolph DeRoos in America. There was a publication called Real Estate Investor, and I thought there's an opportunity to launch this magazine in South Africa. And we started in print. Today we run webinars. We do every week, every Thursday, in fact at 12 o'clock. So it's after, this is our normal webinar time. So I feel like I'm doing a live webinar. We have different guests like Greg and what have you. So today I just want to give a little bit of perspective from all the people. I have a wonderful, I have a helicopter view of what's kind of happening in the industry. So I'm very fortunate because I talk to a lot of people. I can see what's going on. So what I've seen that certainly, what makes people good, and we can, I think one of the things is, we mustn't get too stuck on the daily news intake, because I find that, that sort of affects your mindset and everything. And I think the most successful people are those that, don't consume so much news. So I think what really makes people good is making smart decisions. And that's the difference really between thriving and surviving. If we start looking at the people that are really financially free, 96% of people are making the wrong decisions. And the 4% that are making it is really making the right decisions. So, and real estate tends to be a fundamental of people that are successful. I've had the likes of Christo Visa, and you don't understand how many properties and those kind of guys know. We saw the whole Steinhoff and how big their property portfolio was. But if you talk about the rich and famous around the world, they own real estate. And it's a large part of their wealth is in real estate. So that's why I think real estate as a category is such a good asset. So strategies that can destroy wealth, and we've seen a lot of this, and there's quite a lot, and I'm going to take you through a few. I mean, you can inherit money. So those who want to make money very quickly, you can inherit. You can also steal, like old Jesse James, he said, I'll rob banks because that's where the money is. Or you can be corrupt, so you can make that money very quickly, or you can obviously gamble, Hollywood bets, all this kind of thing, you win the lottery. These are ways, but we tend to find that those are quick and easy. You go in, you go out. You make the money, you lose the money. Or you can marry somebody who's really wealthy. Or you can litigate. So there's different ways that you can sort of win. So, and I think there's a lot more easier ways of actually making money. It's a journey of actually building wealth that I've found that everybody can do. It's not the quick fix ones where you make quick wealth. So, yeah, I'm just going to touch on a few strategies that I've seen that can really transform your business in real estate and in investment. Simon Kuznets, he's the guy that came up with the concept of GDP, the gross domestic product. There he is, this guy here. And he said GDP is a tool to help us measure economic performance. It is not a measure of our well-being. So we tend to say, yes, we're going to have 2% GDP. No, it's 1%. It shouldn't be a guide to decision making. Yes, the guy who actually came up with the concept of GDP, and he's the one who says it shouldn't be a guide. Because the reason is there's so many people, we're growing at 1%, but there's other individuals who are outperforming that by far. Why? Because they're making those right decisions over there. So if Simon Kuznets says that, then we should listen. And we know along the way that investments can go wrong along the way. And we've got to actually embrace that and accept that things won't be 100% all the time. And Buckminster Fuller says the reason why I know so much is because he made so many mistakes. And obviously, we can learn from other people that have made the mistakes that we can make lesser mistakes. So the successful people are the ones who are making much fewer mistakes. And so that's certainly a lesson. So some of the things, selling in a down market, fear creates bad decisions, but some people believe they're going to lose absolutely everything. Markets are down, we've got to sell, we've got to get out, and that kind of thing. And it's not necessarily the right thing. So we don't want to get into a herd investing sort of mentality of following the crowd. Do your due diligence. And I think in this auction today, the due diligence that goes into properties is excessive. You've got to do it thoroughly. And both on the investment and also on the manager in terms of that. So there's a saying in business, the wrong information. The biggest lie in investment is there's two types of information. And it's information for the masses, and that's the news that we get every single day. All right, which we consume, and then people start making bad decisions. As a result, Trump says tariffs, the whole world's falling apart. Rand dollar goes up and down, and the markets start reacting. And then there's information for the classes, as they say in America, the classes. So you've got to get into getting into the information for the classes. You've got to get to the inside track, and that's by filling yourself into the right. Other thing is fees and overheads. That's a downfall for a lot of people. You've got to pay attention to it. You've got to know there are a lot of financial predators out there. You've got to be aware of that. So, other thing that is a downfall of many investors, and even personal downfall of myself, 2008-9 global financial crisis, irresponsible leveraging through seeking massive returns. So yes, you got to leverage, but do it well. And And if we start looking at leverage, Benjamin Franklin came up with this statement. It's such a wonderful statement around about getting credit. He says, credit's a system whereby a person who can't pay gets another person who can't pay to guarantee that he can pay. Isn't that a wonderful way of credit and how the real credit system actually works? Because that's what it comes. So it comes down to all the things like your cash flow. So if you look at your property, you see it as really worth it's top dollar. I mean, I come from the Western Cape, from Cape Town, so our market is flying up, and I talk to people in Joburg, it's like almost two different conversations, and I don't know why that is, but certainly in Cape Town, we see our properties as really worth that. The buyer sees it obviously worth a hell of a lot less, and the bank also doesn't see it in the same eyes either, because they're not prepared to finance it in that way. But of course, your municipality rates assessor sees it as an absolute palace, like we're seeing in Cape Town right now. We got 8% increases coming up in rates and taxes on properties, and based on obviously a municipal evaluation. So yeah, so we got to be aware of all these things here. So key lessons. I want to go through a couple of lessons. Mindset. It's so important, and it is the foundation of success. I mean, I talked to a guy like Christo Visa, who's been exceptionally well, and he sticks to these basic principles of mindset. He says, nobody wants to be around people that are negative. Even though he lost all his money with sign-off. I mean, I interviewed him and he was worth $6.8 billion US dollars. He was then worth, after the sign-off collapse, 800,000 US. He wasn't even a dollar billionaire anymore. And it had to do with his mindset. And he just said, look, you know what? Nobody likes to be around. I'm not going to be a sour person because I lost that money. I'm going to get that money back. And he's probably now worth about 3.5 billion USD now. So he did come back. Dolph, a good friend of mine, I brought him to South Africa a number of times. He's an investor in the US. He's actually from New Zealand. His real estate investing is 80% psychology. It's all about psychology and 20% skill. And so we got to get that. So with other things, power of networking, like events here today, we've got to network, we've got to leverage, and relationships. It's so important. The business and real estate is about relationships. That's it. And building those relationships. And it's so important if you want to be successful. I mean, this guy, I never thought I'd actually write a book, but I met him. And he said, you need to get a successful peer group. And I've got a whole bunch of authors that wrote books. Anyway, so I wrote about a guy called Gordon McKay, and who made millions in property, and he lost everything on the stock exchange, and then he came back again. He said, write a story about a comeback kid. And that's what I did. And I wrote a big chapter in this book called Dance Until It Rains. So the message to you is to be successful, you need to join a peer group, something like this group that's here. Got investors here. Master your financials. We know that cash flow is king, okay? Liquidity. Know when to get in, when to get out. Don't quit and keep liquid all the time. As Buffett says, when you look at Buffett, he says, never depend on a single income. Create a second source of income. On spending, if you buy things you do not need, soon you'll have to sell things that you need. And on investment, do not put all your eggs into one basket. And then there's traditional ways. Kiyosaki, he says, as long as you've got more cash flow coming in, and your investment is a good investment. And Einstein, this is probably the biggest secret in property, compound interest, eighth wonder of the world. He understands it, earns it, and he who does not pays it. Very much like credit card debt, but just thinking in property, it must be coming into your bank account. But there's also a wonderful smart way from Zaza Gabor. She has a fantastic strategy, and she says she's a marvelous housekeeper and investor. Every time I leave a man, I keep his house. It's a wonderful way of getting your investment. So ladies, find the man with all the properties, everything, marry him, and make sure that you obviously get those properties that he owns. Great strategy, worked for Zaza Gabor. Key lesson, market cycles. Know when to hold, know when to sell. And remember, this is a whole the market is full of cycles, but it's also a cycle within our brain as well. So when we get to the top and we're doing exceptionally well, that is the point of maximum financial risk. When we're doing really well, we get cocky and we think we're on top of the world. And that's when you have to watch yourself. But the point of maximum financial opportunity when is when we are rock bottom in the market. And I would say we're kind of sitting there right now, where we're kind of despondent, depressive, and everything. That is the opportunity that we have today. So, number 5, diversification, spread risk, maximize opportunities in new areas. 6, systems and automation. Make sure you build a system, automate, and you can't scale and grow. Whether you're in a business, whether you're building a property portfolio, you can't scale and grow manually. So we're seeing AI, all these wonderful things coming in the digital world, and they assist us to build these different types of systems that we need to build. Next thing is educate yourself. Become a lifelong learner. And I think that's one of the things. You always got to get the inside information all along the time. And I've been very fortunate to meet, many wonderful people in this business and to learn from them and to understand what is it that they're doing and how you can actually, apply that to yourself. It's called being an autodidact. It's really somebody's a self-taught person. And I sort of made that sort of my thing. And I think you could also become that autodidact, and really a self-taught person through their own methods for learning from other people and applying that. So first you learn, and then you earn. And then you remove the L, as you say, from the learning to earn. So Jim Rohn said, formal education will make you a living. Self-education could make you an absolute fortune. And and this wonderful book over here, so I'm just in closing over here, because it is really the fundamental. Now, I don't know if you know Yanni Maton, who started off PSG. Now, he got fired from his stockbroking company here in Johannesburg, and he was one of the directors of the company. He got fired. I think we're talking about somewhere in the early 90s, and he didn't have a job. One of the books he ripped out was this one here. It's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And he was tasked by Andrew Carnegie many years ago as a billionaire industrialist in the US and philanthropist to discover and publish the formula for success and very great wealth. And he followed this principle and he built PSG. And PSG is one of the most successful companies around today, and also Capitec and all these different big, massive brands that they invested into. So what he says, and this is what Napoleon Hill says, the formula for success is you educate yourself, you build a business, you visualize your success, you invest the profits, you give back to charity and teach somebody else how to do it. And just yesterday, I was actually with a very good friend of mine who lives in Pretoria, and he passed away, unfortunately, last year from motor neuron disease, only at 62. And his son, who lives in Pretoria, only 31 years old. And in a matter of 5 years, he's built a medical business, 20 million rand turnover per month. And it's a 250 million business. He's built in 5 years from scratch, using these kind of principles. And I was absolutely in awe. And it was, it's almost like a message to my mate who passed on at a very young age, only at 60, 61, 62. And his son has carried on his legacy. But wow, it is such a pleasure to see how this guy has built this business and how it's flourishing. So there's opportunity, guys, and that's a message I want to tell you. There's opportunity. And we right here at an auction today, and I think you got that opportunity. And we can start going into different types of investments. So I've got one more slide, and it's my closing slide. Greg, I know we want to get that auction going. We want to get those paddles flying up and get you guys investing. That's what you want to do. And it's a significant slide, okay? It's from Napoleon Hill. He said, and this is, you really got to think deep about this. He said, your big opportunity may be right where you are right now. Now, many of us, from all the daily grind that we do, we don't actually realize that we could actually just be just a smidgen away from success, whatever it is that we're doing. So I think I'd just like to close on that. And I'd like to thank you for just listening to me. I hope you've picked up some ideas. Please join our, we've got webinars which we run every Thursday from 12 to 1. And we've got our monthly magazine. It's free, rei.co.za. We've been around for 18 years. We've got live events. We're doing one, Reside, which is in Sandton Convention Center in July. Please join us there. And we've got a weekly newsletter. And yes, so we report on everything. But thank you for that opportunity. Are there any questions before we get those pedals up and down? Any questions, anybody? Please. You want to ask about Trump? Everybody says, yeah, so what did Trump say to you? Well, he said, you're from South Africa? You guys in trouble. And this was in September 2011. How has he changed now? Well, I'm in trouble now because of him. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity.